I said, how can I have ADHD when I've focused so much on one thing? He said, it's classic. So then I went and had the test.
One of the things that's come from your ADHD is that unbridled creativity with food. You've gone places with food that nobody's dared to go. And I'm sure that's not been an easy journey. How has that been, the creativity with food?
I've gone from one experience to another,
Mm-hmm.
and I fell down a rabbit hole. And when I fell down that rabbit hole, I started buying French cookbooks and translating them with the French-English dictionary.
We talked to a number of people where the creativity side of things has been so stifled at school they then struggle.
That's a great point.
What was Heston like at school, and what was school like for Heston?
Can do better. That was my school report. I found telephones in fridges. I put a dustpan and brush in the fridge. I don't know if this is ADHD or not, but operating last minute.
It's very ADHD.
Is that?
Yeah, very ADHD. So Heston, you've a hell of a reputation. Creative, the chef, the whole 9 yards of being who you are, huge personality. But we're here to talk about you and neurodivergence and your ADHD. So we'll get into the creativity and the links to that massively in the fullness of time. Let's open the conversation, talk about you and ADHD. When did you realise that you may have ADHD?
My story went from studying the evolution of human beings. We started off as a single cell bacteria, and then we grew. I have a very sweaty head. It's okay at the moment. I can tell the temperature. It's about 19, 20 degrees in this room. I can tell the temperature. It's like the worst superhuman strength of all. I can tell the temperature of a room by what my head does. My body doesn't get sweaty, but my head gets sweaty. And the brain is 2% of our body weight. It's 25% of our blood and takes up 60% of our glucose. So it's a very busy thing. And I knew I had a really busy head, but I didn't know how busy anyone else's head was.
Yeah.
Because it was my head.
That's all you know.
So I got myself tested. And
When was this, Heston?
When?
Yeah.
2017. So I realised I had ADHD, and once I realised, it made an awful lot of sense. So I don't like being late at all. I wouldn't just sit there waiting for the clock to tick and think I don't need to go anywhere yet. I think I need something. I run upstairs to find something. I'd come down with the whole handful of stuff that I'd lost, like a watch that I hadn't found for 6 months, but not the thing that I'd actually gone upstairs for in the first place. And I ended up running out of the door into the car with a shoe in one hand. I found telephones in fridges. I put a dustpan and brush in a fridge. These are just some of the things that I think are ADHD related.
Sort of distracted from what you set out to achieve, not getting to the end goal, and then getting it all done very quickly to make sure when you get something on time, but not necessarily being correct with what you got. That's what I'm taking from that.
Yeah,
Is that fair?
Basically, and also operating. I don't know if this is ADHD or not, but operating last minute.
It's very ADHD.
Is that?
Yeah, very ADHD. And if I may, you present a pattern there of chaos, to put a word to it, chaotic behaviour.
To live with it must be, yes, it's chaotic,
impulsive, and yet to reputationally as a chef and everything you've done with food, I've never read or seen anything of you that's normal, whatever that is, with food. You've been so creative with food.
Yeah.
And people talk about one of the positives of ADHD is unharnessed creativity, don't they? It's one of the, you know, we've had that with many guests. Quite clearly, the way you're talking, the way I'm joining the dots up, one of the things that's come from your ADHD is that unbridled creativity with food. You've gone places with food that nobody's dared to go, and I'm sure that's not been an easy journey. How has that been, the creativity with food?
I suppose a lot of it's been dot joining, putting things together that I'm just trying to give an example that people wouldn't think would go together. That one of the first dishes that I did at the Duck was a crab risotto with a crab ice cream.
Yeah, that's not usual.
It's not usual. I mean, this is in 1997.
Did it work?
Interestingly enough, it was a bit like Bovril.
You either loved it or you hated it.
And it led to my first paper I did with Sussex University. If I called it, so there's a crab risotto and I had a passion fruit jelly over the top, but there was a spoonful of crab ice cream. If I called it crab ice cream, the response was very different to frozen crab bisque. And the experiment we did was with smoked salmon. And when we called a smoked salmon ice cream, it was found to be 15 to 20% saltier than when it was called frozen crab bisque. Because the expectation of ice cream is sweet. So the contrast between the expectation and the deliverable, so to speak, had a massive impact. And then I started to think, God, how many other things? If I'd written on a piece of paper, this works with coffee as well, the word coffee, but I wrote it in like balloon-shaped letters. And then on another piece of paper, I wrote coffee in really sharp letters. You sip the coffee, it's more bitter with the sharp letters.
Because we're affecting the mind.
We're affecting the mind. And there's many things like this. So I started to be fascinated with how food can trigger emotion and how food can trigger your perception of the taste of the food. With doing that, I realized, and I only can say this now, a year and a half ago, before my diagnosis, my bipolar diagnosis, I couldn't admit this, but now I can. I created multisensory gastronomy. And I didn't know, do you know what gastronomy, the definition of gastronomy is?
You tell us.
I didn't know until a year ago. It's the sourcing, preparing, and eating of good food. So it could be a sandwich. But
If it's done right.
If it's done right. I always thought it was fine dining. So multisensory gastronomy it's like mindful eating.
So it's not just about the food, it's about how you eat it, the ambience, the environment.
Yes, and
your own state of mind.
When I was on one of my highs, my bipolar highs pre-hospitalization, I thought that if people could eat mindfully, they would eat less. And if they ate less, then there'd be less agriculture. And if there's less agriculture, there's less water. And the amount of water on the planet has stayed the same, but the distribution has changed because of all the money that's made from bottled water.
Can I change the tack for a second?
Of course.
Fascinating. Honestly, if this was a room of 100 people, it'd be silent listening to you. It's amazing. I want to go back. I want to peel back a bit to build back to where we are. What was Heston like at school, and what was school like for Heston?
Interesting. Can do better.
Yeah, go on.
That was my school report.
Yeah.
Basically, everyone. And I got to the point where I threw my school reports on top of there was like a cupboard above my bed. I threw my school reports on top of the cupboard, because they're conversations between the school and the parents that the child has to deliver.
Yeah.
Which is a bit ridiculous.
And yet here you are, quite clear. You've set the scene for this part of the conversation. You're a brilliant mind, an absolutely brilliant mind that's with gastronomy has applied that brilliant mind to making a difference, making a change, setting new standards. Why was school saying that you could or must do better when you've got such a brilliant mind? I'm going somewhere with this, as you can guess.
Yeah.
What was the disconnect when you were a
Great
young
question.
kid?
Great question. I don't know how much of that was my ADHD, because I only found out 2017. It's 2017.
Yeah.
You know, like, where are my glasses? I've lost them. Oh, they're on my head.
You're the one at the passport at the airport. Check it 10 times.
Oh my God, the airport.
Yeah.
We were in Australia once. I had a restaurant there, and gone through the security check, and you know the passport desk before you go down the passageway to the plane. The woman said to me, "Have you got your telephone, your computer, your tablet, your iPad?" Because the last time I went through there, I left them all. I got my bag went through. I left them all in the security.
Because you've got to take them out, haven't you? And put them separate.
Yeah.
Oh. You just walked off?
Yeah.
I just walked off.
There's no ADHD there at all, is there?
There's none at all. The amount of computers and the things that I've lost, I've put between the seats, on the side of the seat. I just got up and left it.
You are a creative. You have to be a chef, to experiment. And one of the things that I was interested in asking you is, we talked to a number of people where the creativity side of things has been so stifled at school they then struggle. I wonder if that was what was happening with you, where you were just being shaped and being groomed a certain way, where we know that neurodivergent.
That's a great point. I agree with you. I think that if you talk about ADHD and bipolar, which is not neurodivergent, I don't believe my ADHD might have had an influence on this. When I was 16, I went to a restaurant in France with my folks, and it was a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant. My dad did well for a year. He was in leasing, and he did big air conditioning contract. I had this experience in this restaurant in Provence, which is still there. It's in the most beautiful valley, rocky valley. We arrived early evening, the sun was setting. I remember the noise of the feet of the waiting staff crunching on the gravel. Everything when you're smaller seems much bigger. Mm-hmm. So the wine glasses were like this. The cheese trolley was the size of a chariot. They were pouring sauces into soufflés. The smell of lavender was intoxicating, and the noise of the crickets was so overwhelming. So these are things I never had before. We went to Cornwall for our holidays, and my memory was, which I still loved, was sitting in the back of my folks' car with the boot open, coming off a wet beach, wrapped in a towel, eating a Cornish pasty out of a brown paper bag. So I'd gone from one experience to another. Mm-hmm. and I fell down a rabbit hole. And when I fell down that rabbit hole, I started buying. They weren't expensive, but the French cookbooks from chefs, and translating them with the French English dictionary. So I learned my food French, my cooking French is fluent. The rest of my French is a bit dodgy. I found that most French cookbooks, they had recipes for vanilla ice cream, but they weren't the same. So some used single cream, double cream, whipping cream, whole eggs, egg yolks, glucose, sugar, all in different quantities. And I thought, do they know what they're doing? Or is this just because they've learned what they've been told? I came across a book called Isis, written by a guy called Robin Weir, which had a Lexington at the back of it, which explained the use of the ingredients, the importance. So that was my first area of science. And then I got a book by Harold McGee called On Food and Cooking, The Science and Law of the Kitchen. And this was about food science, the science of cooking, not food science. Food science is something you learn at university.
Yeah.
This was, why do eggs make your souffles rise? And in this book, it took me a while to read it. In this book, he said, browning meat doesn't keep in the juices. I thought, I was like finding out that Father Christmas wasn't real.
Is he not?
He might be.
Now we've done it, haven't we?
No, he might. No, he's done it. Finding that out made me question everything. And so I've got my coat of arms. And on the coat of arms, you have the option of the quote. Not the option, but you've got to put a quote. And it can be in Latin or English. I put it in English. And mine's question everything.
But that question everything, let's just stay with that for a second. And there's somewhere I want to go. If people describe ADHD in the very crass way of impulsivity, hyperactivity, and inattention, there's a whole shed load more to ADHD than that.
Yes.
But in that core definition of ADHD, the correlation between impulsivity and what people would question as inattentiveness, what you've harnessed, I think, and I put it to you, am I right, is questioning everything is not what everybody does. But the inquisitive mind, going back to the animals and the how we've progressed out of the sea, the survival is those that question. The entrepreneur is the survivor. The person that's questioned things, the Heston that's questioned things, has led to your success because you didn't accept that browning meat holds in the juices. You've then looked at, how do I hold the juices in meat in a different way? Yeah. And you may not have done that if you were neurotypical. You may have just accepted the norm, and your neurodivergence, for want of an expression, your ADHD, has allowed you, given you the freedom, given you the agency, as we talked about off camera, to actually question the norm for just about everything.
And then have the hyper-focus to go after it.
Before I forget, I hadn't finished. I hadn't closed the circle of how I found out I had ADHD. So, of that evolutionary story and my sweaty head, a father of a friend of my son's, the son was a psychiatrist. And he said, I think you might have ADHD. So I said, how can I have ADHD when I've focused so much on one thing? He said, it's classic. So then I went and had the test.
Right.
After that. Sorry, that was...
No. It's important. Can I go back to ice cream for a second? Just something I'm aware of. I sat in, I think it was Terminal 2 at Heathrow, and had a Heston ice cream with nitrogen blown through it. What made you do that? Because that was questioning the norm. That was doing something different, wasn't it?
Proper pioneering.
Proper pioneering.
Do you want to know how that happened?
Yeah, go
I went to have a wart removed
on. now I'm waiting for this one to unfold.
from a doctor, and he had a flask and put like a cotton bud in it, froze it, and then I thought, this is really cold. And I was trying to cook foie gras at the time, but I didn't want to overcook it. So I was trying to put it on crumped up tin foil and stuff. So I found the flask has a spray button on it. So what I did was cook the foie gras, and every 30 seconds or minute, take it out of the oven and give it a spray to cool it down.
Of cold nitrogen.
Yeah. So it didn't overheat too quickly on the outside. And that was the beginning of nitrogen. And then when I managed to get the supply of nitrogen, the first time I used it, well, socks went in there, all sorts of things. And I put a banana, I gave myself frostbite. I put a banana in a pestle and mortar that had been in nitrogen, smashed it up and put it in my mouth.
Okay, no impulsivity.
I love that. No sort of checking a manual. Just
absolutely.
like, so you,
just go and do it.
Wasn't a good idea. I had to pull it off my tongue and my lip, and they were both bleeding.
Wow.
But
I learned a lot.
The learning a lot and the experimenting with food and marrying up a big part of this conversation with then the realization you've got ADHD. Are there foods that we should be eating if we've got ADHD, neurodivergent, and is there a way we should be eating them as well? Like, making sure we're sitting down.
My cooking helps ADHD.
The principle of it.
The principle of it.
It stimulates creativity, imagination.
Multi-sensory.
Yeah.
So when you have a smell, you have a touch, you have a taste, you have the senses are triggered. If you can trigger a memory as well, that makes a massive difference. The way you eat it, yes.
It's amazing how important that is. And have you changed certain ingredients and consumed food differently from sort of before your ADHD diagnosis to after? Have you noticed you gravitate toward foods differently?
I've since, when I mentioned the crab ice cream, that was 2017, 2018. Then there were dishes like the Sound of the Sea and stuff. So I'd say that I don't know if that's been influenced by my ADHD or not, actually.
Not the cause of you wanting to cook, but may I suggest have driven the creative excellence that you've applied as a cook.
Yes.
And
yes.
allowed you the freedom to impulsively do the things that people haven't done before.
And I think the combination of my ADHD and bipolar has worked in the kitchen.
We're working a lot clinically with obesity and poor diet in terms of health risk of heart attack, stroke with people with ADHD. People with ADHD generally, and I'm generalizing, carry weight and have a poor diet through impulsive eating, unplanned eating, and poor choice of food. And what we're finding is data drives this statement. When ADHD is harnessed and treated, and people feel more at one with themselves and can plan better and eat less impulsively, can plan a diet, can plan a menu, can plan their shopping, we improve things in terms of body weight, healthier diet. So we're actually in a process of reducing the public health risks by treating ADHD, which is a correlation that
But
relatively
really important. I know that since the last time we met, I've lost 8 kilos.
Well done.
This sort of comes back to mindful eating, people's
Mm.
relationship with food, and the impatience of ADHD. I think creates people to pick,
graze
just graze,
and not have that whole sensory experience of food.
and they're not connected. They're disconnected with food.
There's some work I'd like to explore with you if you're up for it on that whole sensory experience for neurodivergence of food. How can we increase? How can you as a scientist help us increase that sensory experience positivity of food to increase the health of people with food and the relationship with food, to produce a healthier society for those who are neurodivergent and don't have that positive sensory experience? And you've opened me up to something in there that I've never even considered before. And we talk about sensory experiences for people who are neurodivergent all the time. You've opened that up to me. I think that's a journey that would benefit society as a whole. And I think you as a scientist, as an entrepreneur, as a creative, with all of the struggles you've been through to get to the Heston of today, I think you could add incredible value to people's journey just by exploring that with us, if you're up for that.
I am definitely up for that. And I think the biggest thing is so we have an association with our breath, but we have to think to stop breathing. We drink water, and we eat, and we sleep. Eating is a completely different thing. It's so complex. It's the most complex thing the human body does, because it's the most intimate thing the human body does. We put things in our mouths, we put them in our body. It could be guilt, it could be comfort, it could be fear, it could be all sorts of things.
And I think where people have got a difficult relationship with food because they're neurodiverse, we can work on improving the quality of that relationship with food and a multisensory experience with food to make it more attractive, to make it more rewarding, to make it a better place to go. I don't think has been considered anywhere near enough. We've never talked about it.
And the why behind it.
And absolutely. So
if you're going to go, let's say you're going to go to a Mexican restaurant and have tacos and Mexican music is playing.
It's a whole sensory experience, isn't it?
It makes a massive difference. And they've already shown that if you play loud music, loud rock music, you can speed up people's eating by 20%, 25%.
We talk a lot about removing the shame and raising awareness, which is literally the why of us sort of coming together on this. You've really pioneered that. From the minute you were diagnosed, you announced it, and then you've been, and I want to know that sort of mindset. There was no sort of fear, if you like. From the minute I told people I had ADHD and went public, if you like, on social media, I was being told I was brave, and people were messaging me saying, "Oh, I wouldn't do that." What was the thought process behind you just wanting to be so open and raise awareness?
I've thought about this before. I don't know. I think I was so surprised. I knew I had ADHD diagnosis 2017. I looked up if I had Tourette's. I looked up if I was a narcissist. Told me, if you have to look up, you're a narcissist.
You're not a narcissist.
You're not a narcissist. I went through all of those things, but I never considered bipolar. So when I found out, Melanie hospitalizing me was difficult for her. Within 2 days of being, maybe 2 or 3 days of being in hospital, I got a diagnosis. And I spent 2 months in hospital being monitored. And there's a lack of diagnosis on these things. It's the same. You're doing so much for diagnosing ADHD. And the diagnosis, I think, is so important. It's so important because you can understand more about yourself and do something about it.
There is we're finding in that in everybody we've spoken to through the program and all the work we do clinically, the moment somebody gets that diagnosis, and there's this anti-diagnostic movement that sort of says don't labelise people, whatever. But actually, if you actually get something that helps you understand who the hell you are and why you've had the challenges and the struggles that you've had, and more importantly, how can you now translate that into how to go forward, then there is a greater chance of achieving some form of inner peace and some form of inner understanding that sets you up better. And you can hear that in you. You can feel it in you the way you're talking. And you know, you've obviously had your personal battles to get to where you are, and to get through what you've got through. And part of our rationale and goal is here's you, a hugely acceptable person. People won't understand that you've had those battles and you've had that trickiness, your partner having that trickiness to watch and go through. The overcoming that fair means or foul, but getting through it to where you are now. If we stick with the ADHD for a second, and I understand that the bipolar is huge for you, but stick with the ADHD for a second. You were discussing the brain before, and of course with ADHD we're talking about dopamine reduction and having to get to dopamine increase to get through those things. People turn to alcohol, they turn to drugs, they turn to excessive exercise, excessive anything to increase that dopamine. Was there a journey for you through that dopamine-seeking behaviour that you look back on now and you think, crikey, I'm glad through that?
Yeah, there's been a lot. I mean, I when we did the documentary, I was shown a clip of something from BBC, Click. And the guy asked me, how was I? How are you? 40 minutes later, I'm still talking. Like 10th of the dozen, still talking. And before I put the weight on after the medication, I was training 3 hours a day. I was spending money like no tomorrow. I was self-medicating with Coke. So I was doing quite a few things.
That's like an all of the above to what I've just mentioned, isn't it? And and you've come through that, and you've clearly come through that, and hats off to the people that have supported you to get to here. And we often lose that, don't we? It's those people that support you that get you here, and without that support, we probably wouldn't be having this same conversation. And I think to take that round a cycle of learning for people watching this, you've got to lean into your support's got to lean. You've got to have faith and trust to get there, haven't you? And ADHD will present anybody with those difficulties and those challenges. And it's my hope that your honesty, your clarity of message here today gives other people the inspiration to carry on.
I hope so.
To battle through.
Storytelling, isn't it? It's real lived experience.
And it's grit. You've got grit. Your family have got grit to see you through it and come out the other side. And whoever's watching, whether they're an entrepreneur, creative, school child, it doesn't matter who you are. The grit will get you through, and here you are to be able to talk about it. And I've wanted this conversation with you for a long, long time, and I'm so glad that we finally got to have it.
Thank you.
It's inspirational how you can articulate where you've been and what you've got to. But you're also very inspirational because of your creativity, which is your ADHD, the spark you have for doing things. Crab ice cream, for crying out loud. It sounds revolting. But you did it and you made a success about it. But then you looked at how can we label it differently to make it more successful, but it's the same thing. Constant questioning.
I've got a list of those.
Yes. That constant questioning fits with an ADHD mindset, but it's harnessed in a positive way, as opposed to it always being negative self-doubt thing. And I think there's a huge message in there.
So as we sit here now as a globally recognised 3 Michelin-star chef, do you think you'd have got to where you've got and achieved what you've done if you didn't have ADHD?
It could have been ADHD quite clearly because I fell in love with cooking to quite an extreme extent.
Which is a character trait of
Which is
ADHD,
a
like hyperfocus.
Yeah. So that is a big possibility.
And the creativity, to put words in your mouth, of having the impulsivity to be creative and then do something about it and take that to scale and take that off the scale with the creativity. Do you think that's played a part as well?
Yes, it has. Also, can't ignore the fact that when I got the fat duck, 250 grand, it's a tiny building. There's myself and the pot washer. And I was basically on my own and worked 120 hours a week, 20 hours a week sleep. I got delirious. How much of that drive was ADHD? And how much of that drive was the fact that I couldn't do anything else because I was stuck in this kitchen?
You've got your words, very fast, active brain, always on the go, always thinking about things, very dynamic. That's a classic ADHD brain. The kitchen is not a place of solitude. It's not a place of peace and quiet and serenity, is it? I've never been in your kitchen, but if I stereotype a kitchen, it's a place of busyness, of activity, and as you grew to not being you in the kitchen, having other chefs with you. How did your ADHD brain cope or not cope, or control or not control that busy kitchen? But my appreciation of what I've seen off the television, the whole Hell's Kitchen and all of that kind of stuff, very noisy, flames going everywhere. What's your kitchen like then?
Absolutely the opposite.
Okay.
I started to try and watch The Bear. I couldn't do it.
So what's your kitchen like then? Is it peaceful?
Totally. It's quiet. It's I play music in the morning, a lot of speakers, but it's not loud, and then turn it off after staff lunch. There's no shouting. Kitchens that say, "Oui, chef," which is yes, chef, in response to something. We don't have that at all.
So your sensory explanation of gastronomy is not just, I'm playing it back. The sensory experience of gastronomy doesn't just start when the plate goes to, or when the customer comes into the restaurant. For you, it starts after staff lunch, the sensory experience, if not before, with the music. That tranquility that you've just described, which meets your needs, but you're starting a sensory experience for your staff as well then, in terms of the preparation of food.
Yes.
So that you're walking the talk. You're not just, it doesn't become a sensory experience when that goes on the pass to go out. It's from concept.
We have journalists come into the restaurant and think we're making it up.
Wow. That's illuminating. That really is. And we need to work out how we can get this beyond this program into the ADHD community. The mindfulness of food, the sensory experience of food that will improve your diet and improve the outcomes of your eating, therefore improve your health beyond medicine for the brain.
Yes.
That's I never ever envisaged this coming out of this conversation, Heston, at all. I am nowhere near bright enough to have kept up with everything you've said, but there is definitely something in this that we can translate into tangible outcomes for the ADHD neurodivergent community. And I think we should. If we miss this opportunity, we're missing an opportunity for good. We're going to have to close this down, and I don't want to. I'm really, really genuinely sad to close the conversation down. But I'd like to open it up in other guises with you for the benefit of what we're out to achieve, to change the narrative and remove the shame of people with ADHD. I think you have a massive amount to offer this community. And your mind is brilliant. Your creativity is off the scale. And I'm glad you're well. I really am, because you've so much to offer. Thank you ever so much for giving me your time for this. It's been brilliant.
It's been good to see you again.
Thank you. It's been a great chat. I've really enjoyed it.